Welcome to the 50th episode of the Chuck Shute Podcast. Pretty crazy, 50 episodes. Reminds me of that old SNL sketch. I'm 50. 50 years old. But this was a fun thing to do. So I got this idea from watching old Seinfeld reruns, because they used to have clip shows. And a lot of the old sitcoms would do that back in the day. They just take the highlights from all the past episodes and splice them up into one episode. For the sitcoms, I think it was a cheap and easy thing to do. For me, it was a pain in the ass with all the editing, and by the time I thought of doing something for the 50th episode, I had to rush to put it together. So try not to judge me when you listen to the clips. Some of the transitions are a little awkward and abrupt, but that's just basically because I went back and listened to all these episodes, grabbed 1 minute clip from each episode and spliced it together. Next time I'll probably do a more smooth transition and do maybe a longer clip or shorter clip depending on the story. But the episodes will change quickly. So the best way to listen to this is either watch it in video form on YouTube, which should be out soon, or if you're listening on the podcast format, you want to look at the notes in the podcast. That way you can follow through and see which guest is talking, because otherwise it might be a little bit confusing. But basically I go in order. It's a 1 minute clip from each episode, and it just goes 1, 2, 3 all the way up to 49, and this is the 50th episode. So it was a lot of work to make this and choose the clips, but it was also a lot of fun to listen back on these old episodes. A lot of laughs, a lot of amazing stories, sad stories, inspirational stories, so much more. What's really cool to me is just the variety of people that I've had on the show. People from so many different backgrounds. Like I've had people who dropped out of high school and people with PhDs. I have people who aren't even 21 yet, and people who are retirement age. East Coast, West Coast. I mean, just so many different backgrounds. It's cool to see all these different kinds of people all on the same platform. And if you've been listening, I thank you for doing so, and I hope you continue to. And if you're new to the show, I hope this episode can make you a fan and you listen to these full interviews, because there really are some amazing stories from amazing people that I've had on my show. So check it out. And the kind of guests we're going to have, I'm going to try to book some comedians, musicians, actors, athletes, authors, a lot of entertainment industry people. So anybody involved in the movie, TV business, the music business, or may not necessarily be athletes, but something in the sporting business, like a sports caster or head coach or something. So,
right.
So yeah, just interesting people, anybody I find interesting, or maybe, scientists or professors at ASU, who knows? So, whatever I find interesting, but those will be kind of some of the main things, because usually that's entertainment industry is just, it's always been fascinating to me. Sports, music, movies, and TV. I've always just been always gravitate to those things. So I'm going to try to find people that are experts in those, people that I think are interesting. And a lot.
My style of writing is I have OCD, so I have a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet with every joke I've said, how many times I've said it, how many times it's worked, how many times it hasn't worked. If it hasn't worked more than 10% of the time, I rewrite the joke. So that grinder joke is on revision, is on 26.3. So I've said it.
Wow.
You are organized.
Dude, that is cool.
Yeah.
That's actually smart, though. You're being mathematical about it. That's very smart. Now you don't.
Yeah, all my
people
jokes,
always say.
I have a Word document too.
Yeah. So people always say that they're like, "Oh, I'm OCD." You're not literally OCD. You're just anal, or you're like you said, like I said, you're mathematical. Isn't that? Well, I think that would be more of the word. It sounds like you're organized.
When it comes to my stand up, yeah, and cleanliness, like I have to be clean. That's OCD. But for comedy, I have a Word document where I write all my jokes out word for word.
Yeah.
The punchlines are.
Bret Michaels comes walking in our dressing room and goes, "Hey, man." And we're like, "Wow, dude, what's going on?" And he's like, "Well, I want to welcome you to the tour. Listen, after the show, come to our dressing room. We have like a big dinner back there. And why do you guys have to come dinner with us?" We're like, "Get the frick out of here. You kidding me?" That's like the coolest freaking thing.
Yeah.
So needless to say, we do the show. Everything goes great. We're in and out. We got to visualize. This is a little weird. The showers in the dressing rooms in the arenas, it's like one big concrete room with like 10 shower nozzles. So you're like showering all together.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Weird.
That's
yeah.
how it's done. Like, You know, like, I don't know if you've seen movies where a sports team is, you know, in
like
the
a locker
room
room
after.
Sure.
Right. It's a locker room shower for the most part. That's, you know, 9 times out of 10, that's what the showers are like at an arena. So, you know, we're the band, we're showering after the show, and in comes Bret with these 5 strippers, and they're all carrying champagne bottles, and he marches.
That's got to be hard going from touring a rock band and playing arenas, and now all of a sudden, like, okay, now I got to get like a real job. Like, doesn't that?
Yeah. Well, that's
but at least you got to live that for so many years. Like, you always have those memories, and now you guys are touring again, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
Did you
know, it's so, I don't know. I'm just so grateful to have, you know, been able to do what we did. I mean, even at the time we were touring and just having the time of our lives. I mean, we were just looking at each other going, man, can you believe this? Isn't this a blast? You know,
absolutely.
We were just having a good time. I mean, it was party time pretty heavily, but,
oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah,
so it was like Motley Crue, The Dirt. Okay. All right. Gotcha.
Oh, no. Hey, listen, man, I don't think anybody can touch those guys. So no, we weren't, we weren't even close, man. We were milk and cookies compared to those guys. So
didn't ask about your near-death experiences. So I know that you had one where you almost drowned, and there was another one where you actually woke up in the morgue with a toe tag. Can you explain this morgue thing? Because I just don't understand. How did they not realize you were still alive? They put you in the morgue.
That's the magic question. I was kind of pissed off about that. I was like, good thing they weren't the days of sewing the pennies over your eyes and breaking your backbone, stuff like that, or autopsy. They were just putting the tag. That's what woke me up, is they were putting the tag on me. And you know, you got the clothes on and stuff like that. So, you know, it was off to the drawer for me. And I was, you know, laying there recap. As soon as my eyes opened, I was like, I seen the fluorescent lights. I seen something's crazy. I tried to just close my eyes again and recap. All right, what the fuck did I do? You know, and I remember, last thing I remember was partying with a bunch of people, and you know, and maybe a little too high of a dosage. It's like, yeah, give me that shit. I want to go with a higher risk.
K-Pac was a great thing, but yeah, we were the only black family there, and
the only black family in the entire town of K-Pac.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, I was the only black kid to graduate with my high school class, and my siblings and so on and so forth. So,
okay.
So
that's interesting. That sounds like I had the opposite experience, because I grew up in this little town called Issaquah in Washington, and we had one black kid in my whole neighborhood that went to and I think he was the only one in our whole high school of like 2,000 people. And so but he was a nice guy, like, just, you know.
Oh man.
So that's my experience.
Well, I don't know if it's really your experience. I think it's more of his experience. You want me to you see what Caucasian people do, man? You try to take, what's my man's name? Do you remember his name?
RJ.
Okay. You try to take
RJ Brown.
Of course, RJ Brown. This whole story's false. This whole story's false. RJ Brown.
I swear to God.
Only way this gets worse is this fucking name was fucking George Washington Black. That's the only way this story gets worse. RJ Brown.
Oh God, you're making me laugh.
It's not me telling you I want you back. I wish I never had you before. It's not me controlling you like that, and trying to hold you back. And when I call for you, you're not around. Is there someone new, or that you found? Should I fall for you so far that I fall down? 'Cause it's not you who's left out to dry in the pouring rain, and I would do anything for you. Would you do the same? And is it true when they say you're a little too much of a good thing? It's not me, it's you.
Not me, it's you. Barely making rain in my city apartment. You're 20 out of 10, a number one in every department. Some nights you're the only one at the bar, while your man's the only one singing songs. Every night you're the only one at the bar, because I only had eyes for one. You found me praying. Now you got me raising. I said, babe, I need you daily. Got doctor's orders and he ordered a prescription of you. Sexy or formal, I want friction with you. Jeans and boots on gals and suits, I'm never holding back. I'm pushing through doctor's orders, he ordered a prescription of you. Sexy or formal, I want the friction with you. Jeans and boots on gals and suits, I'm never holding back. I'm pushing through, but did you have a clue? I'll be the only one to earn your love, or was it too new?
I gotta ask. I don't want to go full TMZ here, but I gotta ask: Are you and Rikki cool now? Because there was a little bit of a Facebook battle between the two, where you just said the band was inactive, and he was saying it's inactive because I got cancer, and then you guys kind of went back and forth, which seems out of character for him. I mean, out of character for you too. I mean, for both of you, it seemed like I was like, this is kind of weird. So do you guys kiss and make up, or what's the story there?
You know, I mean, we're both passionate individuals.
Sure.
And I hate almost being asked sometimes about the group, because the band was kind of lightning in a bottle, and it went away rather quickly as it came in. And there is sometimes no easy way to say it, that it's inactive and you have to do things. It comes across like a slam. You know what I'm saying? And it isn't.
Hey Lars, this is Paul Stanley, and this is Gene Simmons from Kiss. And I'm going to get right to the point, Lars. A lot of people steal from Kiss. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. But on the new Metallica record, I think you've gone a little too far, and I'll give you a perfect example. Name one song on the new Metallica record that you think is completely original. And Lars goes, I think all the songs are pretty original. Right, but if you had to pick one song, if I had to pick one song, it'd probably be, and he gave me a song title, and I said, that's a great song, Lars. But I liked it a lot better the first time I heard it, when it was called Beth. And he went, how do you hear Beth in the middle of Metallica? It doesn't make any fucking sense. And he started arguing with a fake Paul Stanley and a fake Gene Simmons. And then my buddy started throwing in more celebrities. Like, hey, guess who else is here? Christopher Walken is here. Hi, Lars. I love Metallica because I love cocaine. And
it really don't matter how funny you are. People not going to take you serious, and they not going to fuck with you. So I'm calling comedy clubs, acting like I'm my manager. Like,
hi, my name is Kurt Sharkey. I'm with Wisconsin Prolific Entertainment, LLC, and I have this funny comic there named T. Kingsby.
You know, I'm calling comedy clubs.
Sounds like Kermit the Frog.
Right, kind of, but it sounds kind of like an old man to, the phone. And they believe me, right? So I called this one club one day. I'll never forget this.
How many times have you done this?
Ah, man, a lot. Back
Really?
when I was in Milwaukee, I was doing it a lot, right? So I'll call across the country trying to get myself booked. So I called this club in Milwaukee called Bonkers and shit. It's connected to a strip club. And I'm like, yeah, I'm running the Kurt Sharkey spiel and shit. And they like, I'm like, yeah, I got T. Kingsby. They're like, whoa, T. Kingsby. Whoa. No, we don't want that guy here. I almost broke character. Like, why the fuck not?
My last music question, is there any guilty pleasures or music styles that you like that maybe aren't rock that you're kind of ashamed of? Or
I'm not ashamed at all.
Okay.
I fucking love Barry Manilow.
Wow. Okay, interesting. I would not have pictured you as a Barry Manilow guy or Days of Our Lives, but I'm learning a lot.
I am the only straight man you will ever meet that loves shopping, grocery shopping, Barry Manilow, and Days of Our Lives.
That is an interesting combo for a straight man. You're right. Yeah, that's great.
Exactly. No, I mean, I love country. I love country music.
Well, that's right, because you said you were starting a country band, right?
Yeah. I'm not really ashamed about any of the music I listen to.
That's good.
I don't consider it a guilty pleasure. I mean, everybody knows I love Barry Manilow. How can you not love Barry Manilow? He wrote the songs.
Yeah. Copacabana, that was a great one. I did that karaoke.
Dude. See?
Yeah.
You know all the songs.
I like all sorts of different kinds of music. I just think so many people that call customer service are so angry, and that's usually what those people deal with. And then you just did the opposite. You call these customer service lines and you're overly nice. So, like, how did you come up with that idea? And tell me more about this, because I love these positive pranks.
Sure. I thought about it when I had to be like 8 years old, looking at a Pert Plus bottle, and on the back it said questions or comments. And I remember being in the shower and being like, I wonder if people just call and they go like, yeah, I washed my hair. It was cool. It was good. File that comment. And I remember thinking that when I was like a little kid, but then it never really came up again until I found this stuff called Alden's ice cream.
Okay.
Alden's ice cream has the best mint chocolate chip I've ever had in my life. It's
really.
It's
That's my favorite kind of ice
world.
cream.
I broke up with a long-term girlfriend. I quit my job and I moved to Thailand.
Was there one moment where that hit where you said, I don't want to do this? Like, was there one thing that, like, a defining moment you remember?
Yeah, there was. We would have weekly meetings on Tuesdays with our management team, and they would go over all these spreadsheets and your pitches to clients and blah 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 blah. And they would use all these like corporate terminology like circle back. Like, if I gotta hear we'll circle back on that next week one more time. I mean, I'm gonna. So it was kind of that. Those meetings over and over, and in the suit, and on the subway, and it's 95 degrees in the summer in New York, and you're trying like, oh my God, what suit am I gonna wear tomorrow, and who am I gonna try to impress? It just was not me. I was not a corporate guy. I was not a suit. So like I said, I quit my job. I broke up with a girl. I moved to Thailand, and I kind of said, okay, I got a little bit of savings, but how am I gonna live?
Right.
30 countries later, I finally.
It's kind of cheesy,
the number
but,
one point. I think people themselves is probably the worst enemy they have. It's not the people who are egging you on. It's the lack of belief in yourself. That's number one above all else. And that's sometimes a very hard thing to face. You know, to think that, you know, the guy in the magazine is like an untouchable, it's not real.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it's 100% real, pal. You know what I mean? We're just some dumb kids from New Jersey. You know, but we had a plan.
Yeah.
And we forged a plan with the people that had some power and were able to help us. We didn't do it ourselves. We had a lot of help along the way. That's, you know, but that, you know, if we didn't believe in ourselves, we'd have thrown in the towel before we even got some help.
Right. You said that your secret to your success was pure determination and persistence. So you just kept going
I'll even go so far as to say some of it was stupidity. Because the odds are against you, yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, you got to have, it's either balls or complete stupidity to keep going forward. But if you do it because you love it, then it's not effort.
Like I said, and your reputation is great. But is there any musicians that you've worked with that were hard to work with, or maybe talented musicians but just difficult personalities? I mean, I don't know if you want to say their names, but.
Well, I'll put it this way: some were harder than others, but it was all a very. No, I won't even say that. No, listen, it's, you know, you have to understand people and not let their personality get in the way of their music. You know, sometimes ego is just a shield for somebody not being confident, even though they might have great musical knowledge, but there's something happened along the way in their journey that made them lose confidence in themselves, even though they might be incredible musicians. So sometimes they use ego to protect themselves.
Oh, interesting.
I started doing comedy. I wasn't good. I mean, nobody is good when you start, but I didn't know it, and that served me. Audiences were probably like literally and or at least figuratively, symbolically telling me like, you're not good at this. But I was like, I think my grandmother knows a little better than every audience. You know?
Right. So, but you must have had some adversity. I mean, you have some strikes against you, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe not in the entertainment business, but I mean, being Jewish, right? I mean, do you ever face anti-Semitism and I mean, your comedy special, you know, small dork. I mean, so you're saying that, I'm not saying, but you're saying you're small and you're dork. I mean, those things, did those not ever fight against you sometimes? Were there roles that you were maybe turned down because you weren't tall enough or too dorky or?
I'm sure. First of all, how dare you? I am.
Hey, it's your special. That's what you called it. I didn't say it.
I understand, and we're all having fun here.
Publicized. I'm sure you remember this one. It was probably, I think it was right after the UCLA game. He called the players fat, dumb, happy, and entitled. But I don't remember one player arguing or seeing anything on social media, people talking and arguing against him or talking against him. So how did the players take that quote? What did the locker room say about that?
I mean, a lot of us just kind of we try to get the guys together. You know, you're not gonna win games when everyone's kind of separated in the locker room. So, but we always try to listen to the message and not how the tone is being said. So at the end of the day, yeah, it was a tough loss, but all we could do is try to get everyone together, get all the coaching staff and everybody on the same track to get ready for the next week, and kind of just look. When you lose a game, you kind of just want to look on to the next week and not really focus.
Literally 3 days at the Rainbow on the same table, we celebrated Sebastian's birthday. And I don't know, I'm not friends with him. I just was connected with the king, and so we were all there together. He was out in the States visiting from India. And
what do you mean the king? Like,
so his family, he's a king in India.
Oh, India. Okay.
Yes, a full-on king, and he's also a diehard Sebastian Bach fan and a huge Guns N' Roses fan.
Wow.
He ended up booking shows for them. White Lion played 2008. Our last shows were in India in soccer stadiums, and the king was the one that booked it. He's just a huge rock fan.
That's awesome.
His
it's
family bloodline.
It's kind of like the guy from North Korea being a big Chicago Bulls fan.
Totally random, right? And we
Right?
got Dennis
Yeah.
Rodman out there, making world peace.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, short story long is finally night 3, sure as shit, Axl Rose comes walking into the back table. So now we're sitting there. It's the king, Sebastian Bach, his girlfriend at the time, and Axl Rose and his
And
assistant.
you're there too.
And I'm there too.
I researched you, and what I turned up, this is very meta, which is exciting for me, was I researched the fact that you research a lot. And when I learned that, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's, maybe a funny thing to say or whatever. But then I was so curious whether I was going to have the reaction that other people have had of like, wow, you really know a lot. So I don't even remember where I said that, but I've been on, podcasts and stuff.
Right,
and
yeah.
So whatever. Yeah. But anyway, it's a lovely thing that you do, the research. It's it's impressive, and there's that, but it's also a very generous move. And so I appreciate
you. That's a nice thing to say.
what you do.
No, and I love doing
well,
that. I feel like I know you already just because I've listened to all these interviews that you've done. I've watched your stand-up.
I had a joke about a buddy who had a one-eyed cat, and he talked about how special his one-eyed cat was, and he's just like it's just really special, and that's why I like my cat. And I was like, I don't really think it's that special. Like, you could make one of those.
Oh, that's a dark cat joke for a cat lover, though.
But almost all my cat jokes are dark, and I've always had and it's kind of crazy to think, like, that's my buddy Prakash. I've known him. I met him in college, and it's still one of his favorite jokes. Like, he's like, you really peaked at 17.
Ouch.
But yeah, no, that's Prakash. But truly, it makes me proud because my stand-up is dark in a lot of ways, and I ended up honestly getting a book deal out of how I present myself as a cat lover, which is like, I love them. They're my favorite thing in the whole world, but they're assholes. And
Because the guys were fighting, and what did he do? He just pulled out the sword and just threatened them? He didn't stab them, right?
No, he didn't do anything.
But he said that he was gonna. He said that if they moved a certain way.
He said he had a 5-point plan.
So you don't think that that's right.
5-point plan to attack them, yes. But no, isn't the light rail, this dude's getting beat up by 2 other guys, and all of a sudden, he just pulls out the samurai sword, holds it in front of him, and like yells at them like, hey, or something like that.
Yeah.
And the best part of the video is when this very large gentleman turns around, sees a sword, and backs up like, "Oh my god!" Whoa.
Right, because you're not expecting to see that.
No,
Maybe a
you would
gun
not expect to see a 4-foot samurai
Yeah.
sword
No.
come out on the light rail in Phoenix, Arizona. You know, it's not something that happens. But that thing, I think I've gotten more traction off of that story than anything else because every couple of weeks or months it pops up again on Reddit.
Oh.
And all of a sudden it's like blowing up. Like I guarantee if we searched that thing on Twitter right now, if we search that guy's name, someone's tweeted about that guy in the last like 2 hours.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
What about Tom Green? You met him because every time I've seen him, I mean, I've seen his stand up, I've seen him on camera. Is he as weird off camera?
He's so weird.
Okay, he is. Okay, so he doesn't.
but not
it's not
as
an
weird.
act.
I shouldn't say he's
Not
as weird.
Okay.
He started out. He interviewed with a couple other folks in my building before he interviewed with me, and he wasn't in the best of spirits. I don't know what they did, but I like to interview comedians in a different way. Like they're funny, so let's get them out of their shell, not have these same like interview questions.
Sure.
That's no fun. And so I wanted him to sing the Bum Bum song with me. And he kind of looked at me like I was crazy at first, and I thought, I overstepped my boundaries. And so I kind of started singing it and rubbing my bum on him, and I'm like, my bum is on Tom Green. My bum is on Tom Green. And he joined in out of the blue, and it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. He was giggling, he was laughing, and whoever he was with that was escorting.
This is the first joke. This is where I found you, and I was like, oh my! Like you immediately became one of my favorite comedians. The LaBamba joke. I love this joke because the way you crafted it, it just comes across like so honest. And I related to that because I also thought the lyrics were the same thing you did. You misinterpreted the lyrics. So did you kind of like craft that joke, or because it almost sounds like you're just telling the story, like just honestly, like this is exactly what happened, or did you kind of like tweak it and take out parts and change it up a little bit?
Yeah. Well, that was one of those things that, it was like a real life experience, as I say in the joke, of just being at this bar where there was karaoke. And so, I was not paying attention, but, people are singing songs, whatever.
Yeah.
And then LaBamba comes on, and I see that it's not ba-da-da-da, which is what I've been
That's
saying my whole life.
That's what I thought it was too.
Yeah. So it was just one of those experiences, and
Do you think that's the goal of most young people right now, to be famous? Like not necessarily be a great musician or amazing actor or successful entrepreneur or whatever, but like I feel like a lot of kids just go, like when you ask them like, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're like famous. You know,
Yeah.
like, do you want to be like a musician or like do you
Yeah.
want
Yeah, I think that can be a dangerous thought to kind of be like, I want to be famous because I'll make a lot of money. And then you
Right.
kind of chase that and not chase, because I feel like if you chase fame, that will die out so quickly,
Well,
like
sometimes people get famous for the wrong reasons, like a crime or like a sex tape or something.
Yeah.
And then
you're technically famous, but I think if you kind of chase fame, it's short lived. Whereas
Right.
if you kind of go for like, I want to be the best at this, whatever that may be, then you're gonna be like, you have a good chance at.
Not long ago, I was in love with you. I miss everything you do. Try my best to turn my grief to grace, but when I close my eyes, I see your face. Sweet rain, come down. Help me feel found. As days go by, I feel less alive. Maybe it's all in my mind.
I show up, I'm in the lobby for like an hour, and then this lady comes and gets me. He's like, the guy who was supposed to interview had a family emergency, so he's leaving, so I'm going to do the interview. Do you have your resume and everything? I'm like, oh no, I swear. He told me not to bring it, and they told me, and she's like, oh, that's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm already losing points. But then we sit down. It's kind of awkward. She doesn't know what to ask me. I don't know what to answer. And I'm like, she wasn't supposed to do this. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So then in an interview, she goes, so is your brother Keith? And I go, oh, yeah, you know Keith? She's like, how's he doing?
I heard the story,
yeah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, he's great. He just got married. And she's like, tell him I said hi. I haven't talked to him. I'm like, that could be good. And then I call my brother, and he's like, yeah, you're not getting the job.
Because it was like an ex-girlfriend or
Yeah,
something?
he just had a one-night stand with this girl.
Oh, one-night stand, not even
Never
girlfriend.
called her.
Ooh, yeah,
and
bad.
then she's like, how is he? I'm like, oh, he just got married to the love of his...
You're such an amazing interviewer. I just want to...
Thank you.
Like, honestly, the world
great.
is so lucky to have you.
Thank you. That's wow. That's one of maybe the
thoughtful.
greatest compliment I've had in maybe ever. So thank you so much
Let
for
me
being on the
finish
show.
the compliment. Hang
Okay,
on.
sorry.
Let me make
Keep
it.
going. Yes.
I just think, I feel very seen, and like the way that you ask questions already starts from such a place of depth that it really allows for the person you're talking to, and I can only speak for myself really, but it allows, I felt like I was really invited to go, like to discover new parts of myself. And like, thank you.
Oh, thank you for coming on. That was great. I thought it was really interesting. You're very insightful, and I can tell, like it makes sense that you do all these different things because your mind is so creative and you have all these talents. And I mean, it's really exciting to be able to do all those different kinds of things. So look.
Ed O'Neill, I saw them. They were serving like, I don't know, enchiladas or something. And he asked the guy, he goes, can you pack up like 8 of these? I want to bring these home, for my family. It's like, I love that, dude. This guy's $1 billion. It's still, he's such a cool. It's so cool. He's like, yeah, box of this stuff for my kids and family.
Yeah. Well, they must have been real. I bet they were really good though, too. Like they might be better than some of the restaurants you go to. Yeah.
He's no schmuck. We got good free food here. Yeah, pack it up.
Yeah.
I just love the idea of a guy like that, so famous, talented, lugging home some food.
That's awesome. Yeah. He's Al Bundy.
Yeah.
Like he's like a legend to me. Like.
And then one other time I was walking on set and I saw Manny, he was still a little kid, start doing like karate chops at like a shack. and then just returned to being like a child. And then all of a sudden he was back to being an actor. I was like, it's so fucking weird. This kid's making more money than I'll probably, ever make. And here he is doing karate chops and shit.
That would be weird. You have to grow up so fast.
I don't think I'm smart enough for Jeopardy. I only know 2 categories.
Which 2?
Books and that's it. I know one category. Books and comedians.
No, I know.
I certainly don't know any history or geography or.
But you know about wiener dogs. So let's talk about wiener dog. You have like kind of an obsession with WDs, as you call them.
Yeah, I love WDs. Yeah, wow, you really did a lot of research on me. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, so tell
I love
me.
wiener dogs.
Yeah, you stood in line to get. Tell me about this. You stood in line to get a dog's autograph. Like you are a very educated woman. You've been published, but you stood in line to get a dog's autograph from a dog that wrote a book or a book about a dog.
Well,
or something?
it was a calendar. Yeah.
Okay.
I really recommend Crusoe, the celebrity dachshund, on Instagram. He does a lot of dogs, a lot of activities. I've never owned a wiener dog. I just like the look of
That is the other fast. There's a famous story, you probably know this, about Jamarcus Russell, who ended up being a total bust. He was a number 1 overall pick, but I think he was kind of lazy. The coaches didn't think he was watching film, so they gave him some blank videotapes, and then he came back and he said he watched the blitz packages on the tapes. So obviously work ethic and drive are important in these things, right? So how much do you think that goes into analyzing the draft prospects? Like, and how do you analyze that? Because they can often say the right things in the interview, but then, like behind the scenes, that goes back to maybe that's something where they're talking to coaches and stuff, or how do you measure those things?
Yeah, it varies from team to team. And that's why I think losing these top 30 visits is so important because, when you get to shake a man's hand and stare him in the eye and hear him answer questions right in front of you, that's different than even when you're asking him questions over the internet or hearing him speak at a podium or something like that. And so it varies from team to team.
With him, and then I remember seeing him on 21 Jump Street, and I go, that looks like Johnny Cash.
Weird.
And it was like,
so weird.
That is him.
Wow.
And then I ran into him. The next time I actually ran into him was he was doing that John Waters movie, Crybaby.
Yeah.
and I went down to Hammerjack to see Stray Cats because we were good friends with those guys too.
Oh.
So I went to see Stray Cats, and after they were done, I went backstage because Hammerjacks, we had the run of the place. We could go anywhere we wanted. So I go backstage and into the office, and to wait to go upstairs where the dressing rooms were. So I'm in the office. I walk in the office, and there's Johnny Depp sitting there, and there's Iggy Pop sitting there, and what's the porn star girl?
Jenna Jameson? Or?
No.
So what goes into analyzing the draft picks for you? Because clearly you do your homework with the workouts and the tape and the measurables and all that thing. But what about the mental thing? Because I think that's such a big piece. You look at a lot of the best draft picks, even guys that we've had on the Seahawks who are overlooked because they didn't have the right physical measurables, but they got the work ethic and the determination, like Richard Sherman, Russell Wilson. Like, how do you analyze that stuff? Do you listen to a lot of the interviews? Because players kind of always say the same thing. They always say they want to win. Winning is everything, blah, 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 blah. But like, how do you do you ever take that into account when you're analyzing prospects? Like, this guy's got the it factor or the determination?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things you can do is like you said, watch the interviews, and there are a lot of generic interviews out there, but you can get a feel for certain players. I mean, one that I remember distinctly was DeAndre Hopkins when he was at Clemson.
Yeah.
So in 2013, and he lasted into the 20s. But when you watched his interviews, and he would sit down and
when Sebastian left Skid Row, Snake Zabro called me a couple times and him and Rachel really wanted me to audition for Skid Row.
I was going to ask you about that because I think that would have been a great match.
Well, so did they. And, I think that they write great songs. And I think that if I'm going to, I'm just not a huge fan. I don't own any Skid Row.
Really?
I think that there's, and I think that they're an excellent rock band, and I think that I might wake up one day and regret that decision to not even try. But
yeah,
I was trying to get toys, back on the road, and we were trying to ride and get it together, and we had just made some decisions, and I guess that would have been like 93 or 94 or something like that.
Wow. Wait, they asked you to join?
Phil Hartman came into our dressing room, and he's like, "You guys want to smoke a joint?" And we're like, "Fuck yeah!" So
wow,
we're smoking a joint with Phil Hartman in the dressing room, and he told us a story about the time that he was a roadie for Hendrix. So,
wait, is that a true story?
Yeah, true story. He apparently was a roadie for Hendrix for maybe it might have just been one show, but he was like a stagehand, and apparently the drum set started like sliding off the riser in the middle of the show, and so Phil Hartman had to go out onto the stage during the song and like hold the drum set in place.
Wow.
And he says in the middle of the solo or whatever, Hendrix looks over at him and gives him this look like, "You're rocking now, roadie man."
Wow, that is a cool story. You got to meet Lorne Michaels, and you walked into his office, and he's behind his desk, and you walked in, and you said, "Hi, I'm Ryan," and he says, "I know."
Yeah.
And then you said,
Lorne was it's very intimidating.
Sure, I'm sure, yeah. And you just kept saying, like,
his office.
Yeah, you just kept saying, like, "This is cool. This is so
cool."
Like,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not the best conversationalist, especially when I'm super nervous. Yeah, cool. Yeah, this is cool. Thanks for having me. This is cool.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been surreal to be in Lorne Michaels' office. You said there's bulletin boards with like the hosts, like Lady Gaga and Eminem, and you were just like kind of amazed.
Yeah, I do remember calling that cool. I remember looking at that going, "Hey, that's cool." Very cool. He's got his desk with he has this like so many pictures on his tiny little pictures on his desk facing him. I don't know, I assume family and friends and stuff. And then it's a huge just like eat. Like I'd eat Oreo ice cream all the time when I lived in LA, like Ben and Jerry's Oreo ice cream. And then I was like, at some point I was like, I don't think there's enough Oreos in this ice cream. I'm going to buy an extra package of Oreos and shove down Oreos in the ice cream.
And I'd be at the the convenience store buying it, and the checkout girl would be like, "Hey, those already Oreos?" I know. All right, I know.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So and then I went I saw some. I was like, after a while, I was like, this is getting a little weird. I'm doing this every night.
No, because I just had a blizzard the other day, a peanut butter cup blizzard. I don't eat that stuff very often, but I was like, oh, I'm going to treat myself. And I thought the same thing. I thought, you know what? They don't have enough peanut butter cups in this blizzard. I think they got cheap on me.
Get your own, you can buy your own peanut butter cups.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do that next time. I think that's smart.
No, it's not. It's a bad sign. Especially
got another phone call, and this one was to join Ozzy Osbourne's band. So take me through that process. Do you remember that phone call? Was that, I'm assuming that could have been, would that have been Sharon calling you, or?
Yeah, or someone from the office. But it was sort of very black and white of we got this tour coming up. We don't have a bass player. Could you fill in? Yeah, I'm not doing anything else. So I got the gig, but then it turns out that there was no gig. So that just kind of, evaporated until a few years later.
Right. Cause he had an accident or something. And then when he did get better, he ended up being in Black Sabbath. So they did that for a while, but then I think did Rob Zombie get his band back together and you came back to that one? Yeah. So then for a while you were kind of doing both, right?
Disappeared, and I remember we were 3 or 4 songs in, and I was thinking, well, I guess that was it. We got some silly string. It wasn't so bad. And then I'm noticing the front row of the crowd are looking past us, pointing and laughing. So it took me, 30, 40 seconds. Finally, I turned around. I'm like, what is going on? They had dropped a backdrop over our backdrop, taped some sheets together, and it was a skull similar to our dude. Mm-hmm. And I think it said "suck it right" or "belch it right," some play on the words. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was some sarcastic shit. And then it had a bunch of funny stuff written all over it. So here we are,
that's cool.
Trying to act tough and play, and meanwhile our whole backdrop. And then it started to progress from there. At one point, Dimebag came out, and it was hard to hold on to my guitar. I didn't know if he was trying to take it from me or what was going on, but it was crazy. In retrospect, I think they were distracting me because they put about 10 pounds of ground beef over my MIDI pedal. So there's a foot controller for your amp. You can go from clean channel.
We took a Hertz Penske truck that had all of our equipment that the crew guys would drive behind us at night. And when we packed it, we packed one of those 55-gallon drums as a barbecue grill in the back of the truck. So the first thing all the loaders would see when they opened their truck was this big grill. And we would throw these grill outs at our hotels. So we'd be at the Holiday Inn or the Hilton or whatever it was. And the record company would get the radio station people, we get the contest winners. We would tell some of the fans ahead of time where we were going to be. And we would throw these crazy cookouts. And we were collecting things the whole time. So we had these yard candles, these tiki lamps. People were showing up with cardboard cutouts. We had this girl that she had a battery in her belt that had a hula skirt on that we would turn it on, and she would stand over in the corner shaking her little grass skirt at you while we were cooking out and stuff.
Those would always go, Coach, I don't know. I don't understand whatever the question is. I don't understand why, cover 2 always gets disguised this way or that. Oh, well, let me tell you. First of all, back in, wherever, Minnesota, when they first thought, he would just randomly go off on these camps. And if they would do it sort of as a needling thing to Luke, but
that's funny.
But all in good fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I think the funniest one though, Chuck, really is, and you have to have him. He's the one that Tyler does a good impression of him, but when he thinks that you've missed an open receiver, he has a tendency to kind of exaggerate it. He would always say, Luke, if you forgot how to throw the football, kick the fucking thing to him. He's wide open. What do you do? Right?
That is funny. Yeah. But you are kind of saving the world in a way because you answer a lot of your direct messages and people reach out to you. Like you said earlier, people reach out to you that are suicidal and stuff. Are you still getting a lot of those kinds of messages?
Oh, hell yeah. But I'll spend more time
in a day. I get so many PMs a day. It's ridiculous.
Like
It's
how
hard for
many
me
a day?
to-
Like 100 or like?
On a slow day, I'll get, say I'll be messaging with somebody and like, say if you and I that was the only way we were keeping in touch. Like I'll message you, I'll PM you this day to let you know what the deal is. I would have to scroll for literally feet to find you, to find your message, and just I respond to you, and then by the time you respond back, it's feet farther again, and so. Wow. And with the way I operate, I never remember anything. I had to have a heads up call.
We were timid, and we were all worshiped Alice. And I saw Alice that day in catering, and I just said, "Hey, Alice, I just wanted to thank you for having us. This has been the thrill of a lifetime." And I said, "I know you hear this all the time, but you've never heard it from me. When I was a kid, for years straight, I wore your makeup to school on Halloween. And I was Alice Cooper for Halloween because that was kind of an easier makeup than Gene Simmons, and my mom could do it." And he kind of laughed, and he was just like, "Well, look at this. Now you're playing with me on Halloween." I was like, "Dude, I can't wait to see the show." And he just said, "Be on the side of the stage at the end." And I didn't really know what that meant, but me and Wednesday were standing there, and Alice looked at us and was like, "Get over here." And he just put us on the background mic, and they did all the balloons and the balls. And dude, it was a nerd's dream come true. I felt like a Make-A-Wish kid, like somebody came and was like,
You got a job as a production assistant on a movie. Now, I don't know if I did my research right, but tell me, was it with George Clooney? Was this The Unbecoming Age?
Yes, it was.
And that was before George Clooney was anything, right?
Correct. Yep. I remember I delivered scripts to his apartment over in West Hollywood. He was very nice. But he was, riding around on his motorcycle. He was still in Roseanne, I think.
Oh, okay. So he was kind of famous. Yeah, that's kind of neat.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So what was that? So you're delivering scripts. What other things did they have you do as a production assistant?
Well, it's funny because I started pre-production.
Okay.
And then once we got to shooting, they had liked me so much, and I guess I did such a good job. They promoted me to a second AD, which I just thought was really funny because I didn't know what that meant, but I was happy with it.
Well, you to team up with Ryan O'Flanagan, because you're the one that turned me on to him. He is hilarious. He makes hilarious videos.
Oh, I
think
love
you
Ryan.
two need to make a
Ryan's
video
so funny.
together. Have you ever talked about that?
Yeah, I love his stuff. We haven't talked about that, but sometimes I don't know if it's that easy where it's just sort of like, yo, we got to team up and make something. Comedy's not like musicians. We're like, yo, come over, let's comedy jam. Oh yeah, that's funny.
No, you don't have an idea that you think like a part he could play or something in one of your sketches, or I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. For sure. I love Ryan O'Flanagan, and I love other comics as well. I think the way I work is I'll think of a sketch, I'll write it out, and then I plug in whoever I think is right for it. Like, who do I know that I envision as this?
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of doing stand-up and being surrounded by so many other comedians. I just know who's right.
Just make sure that you're there for the important moments, because there was a lot of cool things that he's done in his career, but he doesn't remember them because he was so fucked up on drugs or booze or whatever. So that really stuck with you.
I've never forgotten that.
Yeah.
I've never forgotten that. I've taken that to heart, so I never get obliterated or anything like that because, I first off, he's like, man, I wish I would have appreciated what I had, because we had the fucking world at our hands, and I have nothing to show for it inside my head. You know what I mean? And that's kind of everything.
Yeah, he has pictures, but he doesn't remember the pictures.
Right. He's like, shit, when did we take that? And that's heartbreaking to me because that's dude, that's like amnesia of some of the most beautiful moments in your life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's and from that moment on, I was like, all right, I'm not trying to be that cool guy who I can't fucking beat Motley Crue's dirt antics. So why even try?
Yeah.
7 different ways to get on first.
Oh, the 7 different ways to get on, other than. So are we going or?
Yeah,
okay.
Go for it.
I mean, so just hitting a single.
So that's a hit.
Okay. a walk, a balk when they hit you, right? Is that what it's called? Getting hit by the pitch? Beaned?
Hit by pitch.
Hit by pitch. Wait a minute, there's 4 more? An error? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that would be the same if the catcher misses it? That's still an error. There's 3 more.
Oh, well, that's
is that something different?
That's drop third strike.
Oh, okay.
When the catcher misses
if
it.
the catcher misses it, so that's
Yeah.
5. So I'm only 2 more.
2 more.
2 more. No. Would a fly out? No, fly out would be out. So no, I'm stumped. Let's see. You can't steal first, can you? Is it true that that you later would audition to sing for Motley Crue? Is that a true story?
Yes, it is.
Can you tell me about that? Do you remember
Yes, it
that
is.
at all? Like,
Oh yeah. Pretty much it's like in the close to the height of the Bullet Boys. Me and of course I'm very close with Motley, and
yeah,
I love them to death still. We don't get to see each other very often, but I love them with all my heart. I still text Tommy, all the time, talking back and forth every once in a while. But there was a time where they were having trouble with Vince, and I have mad respect for Vince. Vince is a friend of mine, and I love him dearly. And I was called in. Nikki called me in to talk about singing in the band. We worked together a little bit at his house. We wrote a couple pieces, like a couple kind of ballady type of things, and it was just hard.
So there you have it. 50 episodes of this podcast. I want to thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please support my guests and follow them on social media. Check out the work that they do. And also, as you know, I end each episode with a charity. I've had over 50 charities mentioned on the show. So do yourself a favor and listen to the full episodes. Check out what charity each guest is passionate about. Eventually, I think we're going to have a list of every charity on my website. You can also find all the old episodes on my website or any other podcast platform. Follow me on social media or subscribe to the podcast to get updates. And if you have the time, I would absolutely be tickled. I don't think I've ever used that phrase before, but I would be tickled if you could take the time to write me a review on iTunes or Google or wherever you listen. It really helps with the algorithm so more people can find the podcast and enjoy it. So again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to all my amazing guests. I hope you have a great day or a night. And remember, shoot for the moon.